What I go on to say, and this account in particular is by no means the finest example. I have had famous musicians, famous actors, famous porn stars, and the list goes on. Famous writers, quite literally following what I've been up to. Some of which have poached what I've left online and spoon fed them. Most of which, technically all of them in this case, because most of them saw themselves to the door and or I booted them out of the account. I'm talking about my primary Instagram account throughout the years. This spans at least 13 years approximately. They weren't willing to do the right thing. This gal and I, we've butted heads a number of times because she shops around a bunch of superficial shit. We had an interaction last night where she was talking about, what's that shitty fucking movie? She was shopping around weapons. It might still be in here, but yeah, right here. Top center. Hey, interwebs. So understand, this gal and I, we had an understanding by and large. It was unspoken as far as I'm aware, where we agreed to disagree more often than not. And it's because I've been doing what I do and she shops around what she shops around. The distinct difference between the two is she is circulated by the algorithm and I am censored on the DARPA internet, which stands to reason it speaks volumes these days in terms of what's information and what's propaganda. In other words, what's superficial rot, or you could dress it up as a distraction campaign, pointless slop, noise, in stark contrast to something that would enrich your lives and would benefit you and I. That we could use as a tool to see that we live in a harmonious system again. If you look around, things are disharmonious and bad. I've been providing people with stepping stones to try to correct that, but I am censored on the DARPA internet. Unlike folks such as this gal. Celeste is cool. She's sweet. I mean that. I don't think she means, I don't think she has ill intentions, is what I'm saying. I really don't. I think she's just trying to make her way in this world, and I don't blame her for part of that. We live in the age of disinformation and patently fascist censorship. That needs to be said because most people have not realized as much. Most people aren't willing to work with what I just said. Most people would rather, disregard it outright. That's a poor way to put it because I think I said outright in the message that I wrote her. I try not to be redundant. It's been a long night. I did have a few beers and I've had 3 interactions today where people have freaked the fuck out, for lack of better words, and censored me on the DARPA internet. Instead of using their brain, rising to the occasion, and not promoting patently fascist censorship. Not promoting fascism in general, but more importantly, considering the information for fuck's sake, because they're human and they might not have all the goddamn answers. The same applies to me. I get that. This gal and I, we've had a number of interactions throughout, I think probably maybe 2 years' time. I think approximately is how long we've interacted, roughly. Through these interactions, she came to my account. I followed her account, but she came to my account and I let her in. And she, for the most part, just sat back. I don't know if she ever watched anything. She didn't interact with anything, but she was in there. She was another one of the fucking voyeurs. There's only 79 in there now. She would have made the 80th one. Some of those folks that are in there are dead. They're no longer there. Some of them are duplicated accounts based on people that I care about and I respect. I don't let a lot of people in usually. I don't. Not anymore. Either way. So the account in question, or the post in question rather, pardon me, I misspoke. Like I said, I was drinking earlier and that's my shitty excuse. Things aren't what they used to be. They don't make them like they used to be. Movies used to be fucking neat and not divisive garbage, pointless fucking slop in my humble opinion. And this is just a movie. That's what she chimed in about, this. And some of you might have liked it. And so she waxes poetic about witchcraft. I think this movie is trite fucking dog shit. You could dress it up as a slow burn, but I'm also under the impression that the ending, spoilers, is in place to insult you because it's fucking garbage. It should be laughable. So I said as much in here. Let's see if it's still there. Yeah. I wrote her more than this. I deleted it because I was teaching her things and teaching other people by example that they should not know these things. So I removed that stuff. What I originally wrote was that film is absolutely horrible and the ending is laughable. Your low standards are noted. So she reacted. And I don't mind people interacting. That's fine. I'm chiming in on her account. Ooh, she used an emoji, which is not a good sign, but that's also why she has traction. Why she has, I think is it 60,000 people? Either way. She said I liked it. And here, I'll just read it to you in a second. Her response is, wholesome. It's sweet. It's pretty straightforward and not too shiesty, I don't think. Either way, I'll read it to you. I liked it. Not my favorite film in the world, but it did, in fact, present witchcraft in a pretty accurate way. And I thought it had some interesting things to say about grief, addiction, and familial bonds. So the last bit bleeds into some Rockefeller-funded big pharma propaganda and what people have been trained to buy into and repeat, for lack of better words, in terms of therapy and other garbage, if I'm not mistaken, which I think is misleading bullshit. Take that with a grain of salt. The other bit, where am I at? Because I just wandered through the house again. She mentioned witchcraft. So part of what I wrote her, and I think I took a screenshot. Here, I'll just show you the screenshot. It's easier. Here's what I wrote her, and if I'm not mistaken, I did hurt her feelings. I think that's where I wrote it over here. I asked her on a different post, did I hurt your feelings? Is that why you unfollowed me? It doesn't matter if she did, but I challenge people if I notice these things because kids aren't what they used to be either. We're dealing with a bunch of wet farts who promote fascism. For lack of better words, keep in mind, I don't expect people who don't want to be in my account to be in my account. That makes sense too. Each to their own, and I think what's the word? I don't have the word. Not sovereignty. It's your prerogative. And I don't frown on that, but I am challenging her to see what she had to say and how she would react so that I can document it, because usually I'm dealing with a bunch of wet farts, for lack of better words. Said, I also want you to appreciate you have traction because you're misleading people, not because you're doing the right thing. I want good things for you. You might assume otherwise. Either way, best wishes. And I understand this double-edged. So that's how I function. And it's meant to be. Divisive tactics on my end. So here's the other bit that I omitted. So each to their own is what I said. Personally, I don't think the masses have a clue what the difference between white magic and black magic is. Meaning what is shopped around as quote-unquote witchcraft is a load of rot. Wicca is a prime example. It's not only when I say witchcraft, did you think of Wicca? Case in point. It's like saying toxic. Did you picture a man or a woman? Because if so, that's the Hegelian dialectic, motherfucker. You're being polarized and manipulated, which means that's fascism in practice. When I said witchcraft, did you think of Wicca? Be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell me, but be honest with yourself. And the chances are pretty good that you did, because it's been well-financed, well-circulated, and normalized. Because Wicca is a new age propaganda campaign in place to mislead the public and pave the way for a one-world religion. I shit you not. I'm not saying there's something wrong with witchcraft. I'm saying people don't understand what the fuck it means. They don't understand what it relates to because they don't understand how they function. They don't understand how the system you and I are a part of functions. And that's what I'm talking about. That's why I have an issue with this gal and other people like this. Maybe you understand what I'm getting at. If you think about it, you do. You will. I guarantee it. I'm trying to do the right thing. Emphasis on trying again. Back to point. So Wicca is a prime example. It's not only the masculine banner. What I'm saying is Wicca is the male version. But when you think of Wicca, do you think of girls? Gals? I do. I think of the sacred feminine. I think of Mother Earth. That's Wixie. not Wicca. You can look into this and prove what I just said is true. I might have butchered the pronunciation, but it's a fact because people are being misled. Our masters are laughing at us. These are flat out gender bending corruptions in place to befuddle the masses, in place to reaffirm that most people do not know what they're talking about and they're more than willing to circulate the fucking garbage, the rot. And this gal has talked about Wicca, by the way, just to be clear, which is why I'm bringing it up, because it's relevant. She mentioned witchcraft. She shopped around Wicca. I'm not the sharpest fucking tool in the shed, but I do mean well. And what I do usually leave online is relevant, despite what people assume. Either way, all my disclaimer statements aside. I said it's a masculine banner, largely comprised of women, which is what I just told you guys about. That's poorly worded, at least how I just rattled it off. The same camp alleges that they worship Mother Earth, not Saturn L. Keep in mind, that's an oxymoron. That's an inherent contradiction. Saturn is the physical world. This is a big fucking deal, what I just left on here. Which is also why I removed it, because people don't know this. They haven't figured this out. They think they live on the flat earth or the fucking globe theory. The pseudo-intellectual flat earth or the physics-defying globe theory. And most of them, they shop around shit, they smear shit on the wall, tell each other it looks cool, and ask you to repost it or regurgitate it online. And that's what people do. That's what this gal is doing. This is also why this gal has traction on the DARPA internet. And I said, what do I know? I'm censored. And this was enough to burn the bridge between she and I. She unfollowed my account because I challenged her. 3 fucking idiots liked the fact that she chimed in. That's cute, because usually if you do have a bunch of morons following you, you probably have a bunch of, Photoshop space monkeys who will sing your song in praise and reinforce the propaganda. Case in point, if you've ever seen somebody leave an emoji online, I wouldn't recommend patting them on the ass and telling them that they did a good job shopping around a social engineering sticker. This gal is misleading people by example. I'll do you one better. If you zoom in, you see that little blue check mark? She did that so that she would have more traction because she is easy to train and more than willing to march in lockstep with her horse blinders on. Why would I complain about a blue check mark and being verified? Why would I do that? For one, anonymity should exist online and it doesn't anymore. Freedom of speech should exist on the DARPA internet, but it no longer does anymore because it's the DARPA internet and this is what it was always intended to be. But more importantly, to be verified, this is some of the incremental steps that are being put in place to pave the way for social credit slavery. This is yet another way this gal is misleading people by example, and I did not call a duck a duck. I didn't knock her clit in the dirt and complain about this. I didn't spoon feed her this because she's not willing to think about such things. She's not willing to think about what I left on here, for fuck's sake. I'll show you something else because this is what my response is. So here's another thought before I continue. Each good turn deserves another. I unfollowed her account because she unfollowed my account. And that's juvenile at best. I'm not getting anything out of her account. I continued to follow her account for the last 2 years, for the most part, to try to add to her viewership, to be perfectly honest. She's been posting shit about vampire cults and Anne Rice, who I think Anne Rice knocked out 2.5 books that are worth talking about. Unfortunately, in the beginning of most of them, she put Stan Rice's bad poetry. That was her husband, I get it, but he was a talentless hack. And I love to joke around that Anne Rice overused the word preternatural because she did. Apart from that, I don't think Anne Rice knocked out much more that was worth a damn, and most of Anne Rice's fucking interviews promoted propaganda. I shit you not. Social engineering propaganda and other just flat out bullshit. Because Anne Rice was a dumb cunt. I don't have a nice thing to say about Anne Rice. And this gal shops her around often. So I chose one of her posts at random. I chose this one. Let me mute it. Oh, good, it's muted. And I left a comment on here, which I think I already showed you guys. And I just asked her bluntly, did I hurt your feelings? Is that why you unfollowed me? I also wanted you to appreciate, yeah, I read this to you. You have traction because you're misleading people, not because you're doing the right thing, which I think I've highlighted a few examples for you guys to consider. Don't believe what I said, look into what I said, consider what I said, think about what I said. That's why I said it. I want good things for you, and I do. I recorded a video not long ago about this gal because she was talking about how she had 40,000 people following her. She's already garnered another 20,000 because the algorithm is circulating this fucking rot. It's pointless slop. Another way to look at it is, in the age of patently fascist censorship, the more people who have the traction like this, who have traction in general, people such as myself have less. It's disparity, by definition, in terms of quote-unquote reach, which is something that would not exist if freedom of speech did exist and you and I were surrounded by good people fighting for what's right, for all the good things. Which makes me laugh. So she wrote me back and she couldn't bother to capitalize her statement, even though she's an author of this, which is also fucking hilarious. She said, "You feel I am misleading people about my personal experiences. At any point in time, have I stated that? This is a knee-jerk reaction, in my humble opinion, and she's putting words in my mouth. I didn't state that. At all. Anywhere. On the DARPA internet, for fuck's sake. It lends itself to the fact that I complain about people not being able to connect the dots on their own and think for themselves. She got her feelings hurt. She unfollowed my account because I challenged her. I didn't just, sing her song in praise and click like or leave an emoji and build up her account so that she can have 70 or 80,000 people following her. I didn't do that. I called a duck because that movie is dog shit. She tried to justify it and rattle off, ritualistic magic, for the lack of better words, or witchcraft, mind you. So I pointed out, the differences between what witchcraft technically is versus, New Age propaganda. And in the past, and I haven't shown you an example of it, but she has touched base having to do with things that relate to Wicca, for the lack of better words. Pardon me, I'm thinking about eating more food and obviously hitting a bit of a wall. So here's my response. I'll read it to you, then I'll digress. And if any of you sat through this, color me impressed. And she'll probably block me after this. And I am long-winded. Some of you know that. And it's just who I am. I wrote back, "I realize you were likely raised with literal humor." I think that's probably the best way to begin this, being that I posted this on a different post. Yeah, it makes me laugh because I know people who are following this fucking dog shit. Either way. And she got her feelings hurt. So, "I realize you were likely raised with literal humor. However, we both know you're capable of critical thinking skills." That's technically a compliment. "I did not state what you asserted, which is a fact. You and I have had numerous interactions. I've chimed in when you shopped around," I should say shop, but technically it is past tense too, "superficial propaganda," and she does it often, to be perfectly honest. She reaffirms a lot of bullshit. Once again, her account, by extension, if you think in terms of, what's it called? Subliminal imagery. Think of that in terms of the blue check mark. Anytime you see her account, it is normalizing being verified, which is quite literally one of the numerous steps in place to pave the way for social credit slavery. It's an incremental step. These things don't happen overnight. It happens over time, and it happens through normalization, which is repetition. Anything that's well-financed, well-circulated can't be trusted. If it's too good to be true, it probably fucking is. Same with writing pronouns into the algorithm. Same with writing emojis into the algorithm. On free fucking social media. Not to mention, anybody who is using their brain would never have bought into being verified. It's a popularity contest based on a social engineering feedback loop. It is absolutely absurd. Moreover, it also promotes fascism, patently fascist censorship. I'm not verified. She is verified. She jumped through the hoops because our master said jump and she said how high. When they told me to jump, I said go fuck yourself. So I have less reach because I believe in freedom of speech. Do you see what I'm saying? Because what I'm saying makes sense, once again, if you think about it. She is misleading people by example, which is why she has traction on the DARPA internet. Where was that? I said, you and I have had numerous interactions. I've chimed in when you shopped around superficial propaganda. I've also explained myself numerous times over because that's what I do with people such as this. I do take the time to try to help you guys, and I document things like this for the 1 or 2 people who see the videos I leave online. Because it might help you, and you might still have traction. You might be able to help others as well. You might. Most people aren't doing the right thing. You have never provided me with anything of merit, and that's an understatement. Merely opinions based on conjecture, which is to say, popular opinion and hearsay. And that's me kicking the shit out of the dead horse again. What I just said is true, granted it's subject to you thinking about it. And I spell things like this out because most people aren't willing to connect the dots and they'll say, what do you mean? Long story short, and that's always funny when there's still this much more, right? Because most of you don't have attention spans because of 15-second, 30-second, 60-second videos, because that's divisive as fuck and you're being trained. You're being manipulated on the DARPA internet. Let me show you something. Oh, my mom's so sweet. Let's see if it'll work. Did it work? Nope. Let's do this. Cats. This is X. Let's do cats. Cats! So you got cat videos, yeah? Now you got short videos, because this is the short bus, and most people want to ride it. This is divisive. You only need videos. You don't need a subcategory, because this is marginalizing people. Not like pronouns. Yeah? You with me? Probably not. Let's see. What I've imparted, I think that's where we're at. It resonates with them, what I've imparted, that is, whether they realize it or not. This is also why people tend to flag, block, and or outright dismiss my hard work. And I've been at this every single day for about 13 years, approximately, for the most part, to be perfectly honest. With what I said well in mind, if I wanted to take people for a ride, I would do what you're doing. And I would make money off of it. I would also have traction. It's a simple formula, but I chose to do the right thing, and so it goes. And that will probably offend the fucking shit out of her, and she'll probably block me for this. Most likely. Maybe I'm wrong. And or just never interact with me again because she's pushing 7,000 people, and why would she bother with somebody who's, willing to reason things out and urge her to use a little bit of logic? Would you agree that I gave you a handful of examples, despite what you think of me, despite what you think of this interaction, in terms of what she's shopping around that is blatant fucking bullshit that just defies any and all goddamn logic? Would you agree? I mean, scrape away what you think of me. Scrape away what you think of this presentation, because these presentations are divisive. This is my method to my madness. But scrape all that away. Think about what I had to say about Wicca being verified, etc., etc., etc. And that film Weapons is fucking trite dog shit for retards. But what do I know?